Afternoon, everybody. I'm glad you joined us. I got to represent JJ Humphrey, and we're here to talk about the Department of Corrections. And
Not the Department of Corrections, Bob. The
excuse me,
Department of
JJ.
Corrections.
Okay, but we got a lot of things on our plate today. It just seems like it's just never. Last week we're saying, well, what are we going to talk about next week? But we just seem to have more. There's just no end to it.
Bob, there's never a shortage on what to talk about when we're talking about corrections. It's every day. They got the Lawton facility renamed out there, and I noticed, Bob, that they didn't say the Bob Cleveland J.J. Humphrey Correctional Facility. I was very disappointed. I thought Harpe, as much as we try to talk about him, might spread the love a little bit and name a facility after us, but
Yeah.
no facility naming. Red Rock, which is okay. That's not a bad name out there in Lawton, Oklahoma. They got a little Red Rock around there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the director, what do you think about his trip to Washington D.C.?
Well, naturally, Bob, they would want somebody with the extensive knowledge of the Department of Corrections like old Harpe has. I mean, he's never worked one day as a correctional officer. He's never probably, just like Lawton, let's take that. You buy a $312 million building and never step foot in it. So I don't know why in the world is he being called to talk about, AI in prisons. Maybe he knows something about AI, possibly, but he dang sure don't know nothing about prisons. I can tell you that. He's been about the biggest disaster I've ever experienced in my 35 plus years of corrections.
Well, JJ, what is your thought on why he continues to fire people? Uh, uh, People that's not even trying to use progressive discipline.
Bob, I will tell you this, and I really do believe this. I mean, and let's, a lot of people kind of hit us that we're a little bit negative, and we're always talking about the negative. And it's not that we're negative. We can talk about the good things. I mean, they have insurance. You have ability to move up, promotions. You have pretty decent pay. So there's a lot of great things about the Department of Corrections, but their leadership is the poor thing. And the Department of Corrections has got Harpe here. I mean, you're talking about a guy who carried a gun into the death row in there. And here he is. He's supposed to know about corrections. I believe that the reason they're running.
Don't forget the shotgun in this car.
Yeah, the shotgun in the car, shooting you on the floor, all of those kind of things. At least he didn't miss the floor. I do hope that he can shoot the floor. But the thing about it is Bob, if you've ever been around this stuff where people have an extensive knowledge of corrections and know what to do and know the policy, they don't want those people. If you got a captain that's a 3-year and he's been there for 3 years, and you got a lieutenant that's been there for 20, well, guess what? They don't want the 20-year because that 3-year comes in and says something, and that everybody looks to the 20-year and go, "Is he right? What do we do?" So what they want to do is get rid of all those. I talked to a guy at one prison, and he told me they had about one person that left. They had run off everybody else. They had one person left that had 15 years experience.
They got rid of it. I figure it's 15 to 19 years when they try to get rid of you.
Well, I think another thing may be, and I don't know this for sure, but I can tell you, it looks like they're trying to run off people before they get their retirement.
Yeah.
And again, I'll tell you another thing is if somebody refuses to violate something, so if somebody calls them out on their wrongdoings, guess what? You're gone. So if you stand up and say, that right there is wrong, I'm not going to do it, well, guess what? You ain't going to have a job very long. You're going to be down the road. If you stay, if you have good knowledge of policy to where
you talk about a constitution for Oklahoma, where it talks in there that 8 hours, you can't work more than 8 hours. They don't even close to abide by
passed the law said they can't work back to certain hours. And again, I mean, I'm on the phone the other day with some guys that I wasn't on the phone with them. Listen to me, Harpe. I didn't talk to those people. I know how you are. You go fire them for talking to me. Bob, that's the kind of atmosphere. You don't know how many people have told me personally they have been told if they're caught talking to me, they would be fired. You know, now he needs his butt kicked on that if that's the case, because guess what? He don't have the authority to tell you can't talk to a legislator. You didn't give your life away because you went to work for the Department of Correction. You have all the right in the world to talk to your representative. Anybody want to talk to me, that's fine. But here's the deal, Bob. That's the kind of atmosphere they have. They control everything, and if you question anything or you do anything, bam. And again, it looks like they're getting rid of people before they can retire. Now, you know, that may be my speculation, but I can tell you, I completely speculate that it looks like they're targeting the older employees, those employees that are close to retirement, and trying to keep them from getting their retirement.
Well, they just throw progressive discipline out the window because he changed the wording of that where he doesn't have to, but it's still in there. They'll follow progressive discipline, but he didn't, no way, shape, or form did they use that progressive discipline.
Well, Bob, I would tell you this: that we're winning all these cases. We're winning all the cases because they do not do progressive discipline. I actually wrote a letter the other day to the AG, to the Attorney General, and said I want to see all the what they call either 20I or I-20, which is the approval for the lawyers. So if the department goes outside of their own general counsel, they have to get approval from the AG, is my understanding.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned in today's report that he's embezzling $90,000. Is that a year?
Yeah, it's a year.
Okay, how did we come to the embezzling part? Is that when they denied?
Hold that thought, because I want to finish this one illegal deal. They're going and getting attorneys, and they're not getting approval. I just got a letter back from the AG. There's 7 or 8 attorneys on there. Hey, we got 30 cases. We got 30 cases OCP where they're going out and getting outside attorneys. I think we'll have to look. But again, Bob,
okay, so they're getting outside attorneys, but they didn't get permission from.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing, Bob. Think about this. How much does the state pay for general counsel? You think, I can tell you, we ought to call the police because Hawkins is stealing money. She's stealing their money because she ain't qualified for crap. You know what I'm saying? But she is their general counsel. I can understand why they'd want a different lawyer. But here's the deal. How much are we paying that whole department? And then they turn around on a simple case of getting fired. So here's the deal. They fire everybody without following any kind of protocol, period. They fire them. Then they get their butt beat in civil court, which is their own court that Harpe designed. Then they turn around and go get an outside lawyer for guess how much, Bob? How much do they charge?
$500, $700 an hour.
$500 is what they wrote me on the open records. But here's the thing, $500 an hour. Now, we know one case where 2 of them showed up, so were they getting $1,000 an hour at an hour, and they got their butt whipped on that one. And in fact, filed a bunch of stuff that couldn't be filed. Did they charge for all the work they had done? I bet they did. So again, how are they going outside and using these attorneys? Are they getting approval? Because I just got the report back, and I just preliminary. I hadn't looked at it really close. So what I'm saying, just by looking at that and just by what I know, it doesn't look like they're following protocol. Now,
he doesn't follow policy. I mean, look at all the policies that he violates. He doesn't go by, and he gets away with it.
Absolutely. So back to your question, Bob, on how did I come up with his 90,000 embezzlement per year?
By the way, JJ, I asked you that question because you had paused a while ago, and I got a chance to get in there.
Every once in a while, my mouth and my brain don't quite click together, Bob, and you know what I'm saying? So, and I might be craving a little old sip of coffee. So, but here's the deal, Bob. he gave himself that $90,000 raise. I went and looked up in the law, and I didn't just do this. I went and looked it up, and then I called our lawyers on staff at the Capitol, and I said, hey, this is what I see. What do y'all think? The lawyers come back and told me there are 3 ways that he could get approved. One was legislative. I looked, we didn't approve it. One was through the board. I checked. To my knowledge, the board didn't approve it. And you should be able to go back and see when he did that, look a month or 2 in advance and see if it's on the agenda. I didn't see it. Okay.
I think where the board doesn't have any authority to do anything today.
Well, they don't, but they could give him that raise. And the deal is, but I didn't find it. Now, if he can produce some record, say, JJ, you missed it right here. Bob, how many times have I called for that over the last 3 years? Hey, if you got it, show it to me. So here's what I did. The other one is the governor. The governor approves. So he wrote a big, nasty letter to me. I kind of smacked him in front of all the legislators. So he wrote a big, nasty letter back to me in front of all the legislators, which is fine. And he said, JJ, here's the statute. The governor does this. You ought to know it. You voted for it. And I did vote for it. And I did know that. And how many times have I asked him, great, show me where the governor gave you the authority. So that's fine. That's one statute. He's never. So what I did, Bob, I filed an open records request officially, had lawyers type it up, sent it over there. Now, guess what they sent back?
No answer, no knowledge or whatever, something.
No record available. You're close. No record available, which means
they didn't ask anybody. They just did it.
That means you ain't got no authority to give yourself a $90,000 raise. So you gave yourself $90,000 without authority. That's called embezzlement. Now you've done that year after year. So we're sitting on about $270,000 that I'd say he's embezzled right now. And again, I wrote the AG this, and they don't want to be involved in it.
Well, the AG has stopped some people from getting the outside attorneys. I know that.
Yeah. He hammered Ryan Walters, and he hammered our good buddy Todd Russ on that BlackRock deal. Which, hey, I don't know this. We're kind of getting off track, but go look at his involvement on that. That might be a little head scratcher. But the thing about it is he goes after them for that. But then here we come along and say, what about this right here? And again, nothing at all.
Well, change the subject a little bit. Did the guy at McAllister that got beat up, the inmate, do you know whether he died or not?
Well, he got beat up and stabbed. Got stabbed in the back is what I understood. And I hadn't heard whether he got dead. Now there was another one at Hamilton that got the hell beat out of him. And again, man, that looks like it could go, from what I hear, now it's all rumor and hearsay, and I just get the scuttlebutt, you know what I'm saying? But apparently that guy had some ties back to the Irish mob. I'm going to say maybe he got indebted or something to the Bloods. Bloods took him out, and now he had some potential to turn into some nastiness in there, it looks like. But here's what gets me, Bob. You're at a minimum security. This is all going on at a minimum security that you never used to have. Every once in a while you'd have problems, but man, anymore you're hearing all kinds of stuff come from these places like Harpe. Harpe never used to have problems. Did they have? I think another one died at Lexington this week. I don't think Harpe was last week. But anyways, it's hard to keep up with who's all dying where. But Bob, apparently this guy is beaten like these other 2 kids that we showed a few weeks ago. He was beaten to death, and the mom is not allowed to come in. Why would DOC keep the family members from coming in and seeing their loved one? What, is he going to jump up and do something wrong? I mean, you know what I'm saying? He's on life support. Why would you not want the family to come in and see their loved one?
Yeah.
Unless you're afraid they'll take pictures and show the truth. You know, that's all I can think of is that you're scared.
Well, JJ, another thing that concerns me is our prisons. You and I, we know that it's in a shambles. They don't put it out because they don't want anybody to know what's going on. They don't. We used to, we get a report weekly of anything, any incidents, or anything happened today. He says it's not public. I need to know.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Bob. I am tickled you brought that up. I'm cleaning. You knew I was cleaning my barn, right?
Yeah.
It's hard work. I want to tell you something. I mean, I'm working my hiney off cleaning that barn. Hot out there. But looky here. I'm going through a bunch of records I had out there in that barn. And
what year is that?
Can you see it, Bob? Let me see what year. That's May 31st, 2002. I had it all the way back 2002. Let me see on here. Here's what's cool, Bob. Staff composition. Correctional officers, 2,060. Probation officers, 269. Administrative, 1,373. Supportive staff, 1,270. Right there may be some problems, Bob, when you got that many. And they still got it, okay? Total staff, 4,972. Guess what? If you look today, they're reporting 1,200 correctional officers. Yeah, you know if they'll report it, it's a big lie. They'll probably
they probably got 800.
800 would be my guess. We're right on the same page, Bob. But here's what's funny. Death row, male, 111, white, black, 39, Hispanic, Indian, 6, other 1, females, none at that time. They break down demographics. Sex, this is staff demographics. Sex, male, 3,100. Female, 1,842. Race, they break it down to race. They do the same thing with inmate demographics. They break it all down. They tell you how many people are at each prison. I mean, like every prison listed out how many districts.
I remember that.
Bob, all kinds. Then you flip over and it talks about inmate programs. Harpe, what an inmate program is, that's y'all used to have what they had called programs where you put these inmates in and tried to help them. I know this will be a foreign ideal to you, but you know what? There are programs that y'all could go out and get that would help these people stay out of prison. You might consider that. Get you one of these 2002. It'll talk all about it. It'll tell you how.
But the bottom line was they were transparent. And now, nowadays, he doesn't even give the reporters nothing.
Bob, random drug test. Reports on all the levels, probate, all of it. It's reporting. And you talk to them, that'd be confidential. Drug test be confidential. Well, they weren't telling who got the drug test. They just report the drug test. Bob, you know what? And here's what's funny. This is June 30th, 2005. I'd copied all that stuff, but same breakdown. And again, I was trying to look. They didn't call them correctional officers. They changed it and said protective service. You want to know how many protective service people they had, Bob?
How many?
2,278.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, at that time we had like 25 to 28,000 people incarcerated.
I want to say it was 24. I looked at that. They have the demographics, and
so that's 24,000.
Yeah, it was somewhere around 24, Bob. But okay, we got up at one time.
We have like 22,000 now.
Yeah, we had got up right before I left. At one time, I think we got up about, and I left in 2010, and there was time we got up to about 29,000, 28, somewhere in there, and that may have been even when Governor Stitt came in. We may have been up in the 25, 26, because he released a bunch of them. I think 6,000 is what sticks in my head, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But Bob, the thing is, here's what's funny. Here's a letter from Justin Jones. It's in 2004, I think, 2005, 11/29/2005. and they had gotten rid of a guy named Ward as the director, and they brought in old Jones. And at the time, they had and it talks about in here, a $400 million annual budget, 400 million. And
now they're 600 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're right at 600 million. But here's the deal, Bob. We just talked about that they had 2,200 officers. They have they claim to have half that right now. Basically almost half. And
well, Jay, it's common sense, okay? They can take and work these guys 12 hours a day and maybe throw in a couple more hours on top of that. Rather than to hire new people, they can just work these guys like they're. It reminds you back in the days they had plantations, and that owner just kept working and working and working them to death. And that's what's happening here. They work these guys, and even just 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and sometimes 6 days a week, isn't. Nobody should have to do that.
I agree.
But they know it's cheaper to do that. They can hold the money back. They go up and get a budget. They put a budget in for 2,000 people, but they don't really going to get 2,000 people. They're going to keep the same guys we got. We're just going to work them longer hours to save that money.
Yeah, they paid the budget to get that money, and then they use the money for something else. Hey, Bob, you used a phrase there. Harpe, I want to explain what Bob was talking about. He used a phrase called common sense. I know that'll be a foreign thing to you. So listen, man, that's where most people just have the ability to look at something and it become natural. That's what he's talking about, common sense. Don't get thrown off by the terms, okay? So again, we just use good old-fashioned common sense and say, we were at 400 million and you had 2,200, almost 2,300 officers, and now you have 600 million and you have half of that. Where the hell does the money go? That's what common sense would ask. Common sense is like, where's the money? So
when you think about it, that's $500 million.
No, Bob, that's 100 million more than $500 million.
Well,
that's on the north side. That's on the north side of $500 million.
Well, JJ, here's something that bothers me as a person that I'm interested in the facilities, the prisons, the number of deaths we've had on inmates. Have killed. I don't know how many. I just don't know how many people have been killed by inmate on inmate because we don't have enough people to get around there to go down and check on what's going on.
Well, Bob, and that's the deal. I mean, anytime, and if you'll remember 3-4 years ago, we started talking about when we started seeing these shortages, and we were nowhere short of what you remember. I mean, we were talking about that they were claiming then we should have 1,900, but in reality we had 900 left, so we had around 1,000 something, whatever. So we were in this shortage, but we started talking about these shortages and what it does and the relationship between when these officers are short and when you take the officers off the tower, when you take the officers off of those gates where people are checked in, when you take them off of those x-ray deals and all of that, guess what? And when you don't have as many officers in the yard, they can steal, they can bring in dope, they can have contraband. And anytime you have that, guess what? Go look at battles versus state. Go look at the correlation.
Hey, speaking of that, I want to butt in here.
Later.
They go and they'll come up with OIG found a bunch of drugs. Make a big deal out of it. That's okay to put that word out. But
well, ain't that funny? Bob, somebody gets killed. That's called murder, by the way. And murders are put in the paper every day. If you have a murder, it's going to make the paper. Okay. We just had a murder here in an accidental murder in Atoka. I'll guarantee it'll be in the paper. All right. Now, DOC has a murder, and guess what? That's confidential. We can't tell you that's all off the. But now, if somebody brings in some dope, oh, hey, look here, man. OIG does this. OIG, guess what? Them officers are probably getting dope every day. Who says anything about them getting dope? Who says anything about them getting hit in the head with the plate or getting urine thrown on them? And again, that's a felony that ought to be reported. But you know what? Not only does he not report it, but Bob, they don't even report it on their own paperwork. they have quit reporting it. They're covering it up because they know the numbers are down. But Bob, I want to stop right now. Just a little commercial break. We had some. He's really done a really cool deal. You know, what are these called, Bob? Are they called beer koozers? Is that a koozer? I don't know what you call that. A beer holder, beer cooler, koozer.
I don't know. I guess maybe they want the guys to drink more beer.
Well, you can put your energy drink in there too. You can put your Red Bull in there. It don't have to just be beer. But I wanted just to say, Oklahoma Corrections, to build stronger Oklahoma by transforming lives in a safe, rehabilitative, and compassionate environment. Bob,
That's you know what?
that's
I
false
really
advertising.
have to say this. That's a bunch of crap. We
That's
got inmates.
Mark, quit lying. Quit your line. Quit that line. That's false advertising.
That is really, how many people are we having killed? How many of our officers are being assaulted
Hey,
out there?
compassion.
That thing that aggravates me just as a citizen, period, is that he goes gallivanting around and flies in planes and probably getting first class tickets, flying, and now he's going to DC to talk to them when we got officers and we got officers being assaulted. We've got inmates being killed in our prison.
Killed,
Daily.
beaten, and guess what? What do you call a safe, compassionate, safe rehabilitate? What are they doing to rehabilitate? The only thing I can see that he might be doing is dropping the population by letting them all kill each other. That might be. That may be his own.
He's doing good with the shock collars because he put the shock collars in charge of some prisons.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were doing that at one time. The shock collar is a head gang leader.
Yep. Let's let the gangs run the prison, and let's call it a safe rehabilitation. I guess his rehab program is, man, you better not ever want to come back. If you come to prison, you're gonna get raped, you're gonna get stabbed, you're gonna get extorted. You may get fentanyl put in your food and killed. You're gonna be lucky if you don't get murdered, and if you come out, you dang well better not want to come back. That's what his. I guess that's a rehabilitative program.
You know, a guy sent me something, and it really made sense. That we talk about how the OIG found all these drugs and all these phones. Basically, you know, they did their job,
right?
And they found all this, but they don't mention one word about our hard-working correctional officers, what their involvement they had in that situation, what they go through every day. They just talk about OIG did all this. Their own investigating turn.
That's what I was talking about a while ago. They get urine thrown on them. They don't talk about that they got assaulted. They get hit in the head with a plate. They get stabbed. We got one. Bob, remember the guy that got stabbed down there in Allen Gamble? And we spent 3 months trying to find out, did it even happen? And who's the guy's name? Now, Bob, you know, a highway patrol stumps his toe and they'll have it out on. I love all you highway patrol, by the way. But if y'all stump your toe, seriously, it'll be out on the channel night news. You know, officer stumped his toe on the way up to see somebody in the vehicle. Our guy gets stabbed, and we're having to call going, hey, did somebody actually get stabbed? Where did he get stabbed? Was it serious? Was it a serious stab? Bob, can you have a non-serious stabbing? You know, I don't know.
I wouldn't think so.
I would think they're all serious, you know.
I remember that. Really got me. But JJ, on some of those people that has died, when we get the information on it that we dig up, or you can really dig up, there, and then they have a list on there of what there was an assault or whether it was drugs or different. They have different names for different things. But I don't believe they're putting down all the assaults.
No, they had assault. Here's what's funny, and the reason I try to keep up with this, let me help you out, Director. I know you like to stay up, and I'm going to give you some knowledge so you'll be able to talk up there at Washington, D.C. Okay, here's the deal. We're working on suing you over the inmate Ross's deal, and y'all moved him up to McAllister for over a year for spitting on an officer. You didn't file charges, which looks really strange. Did he really spit on them or not? but that's what y'all said, so we'll go with he spit on the officer. But here's the deal: you just had an assault down there at Allen Gamble about 2 weeks ago, where the guy assaulted the correctional officer and assaulted a nurse, is my understanding. Guess what? To my knowledge, y'all have done nothing. The guy didn't get moved, nothing done, nothing reported. Guess what? That's why I'm saying, how did you pick this guy who's 2 months away from discharge, send him to OSP, the maximum prison?
Now, wasn't he supposed to already be out of prison, though?
Oh, absolutely. When I look at it, man, he should have been out 60 days in advance. And again, Bob, one of the problems are that it's not just the staff and correctional officers. And I don't think me and you talk about this enough. But Bob, how critical is some of the support? We have too many administrators, but support staff has to be there. So these case managers that keep up when people discharge and all that, critical, because you can't keep them past their discharge dates. And so again, they had a discharge date that should have been audited. Now here's what's funny, Bob. They said, well, he spit on an officer and his discharge date got changed. That is true. And I can show you he was set to discharge in December, and you moved it all the way back to July 5th. But guess what? July 5th come and gone. We take a picture of that on July 24th, still July 5th. That tells you somebody didn't do their work, because if there was some reason it should have been changed, it hadn't been changed 20 days later, guess what? It's still the same. When they kill him, when he dies, guess what, Bob? They change it to 9/12, the day he died. That ain't the day he discharged. The day of discharge is the calculation date that he's supposed to get out. The day he died is 9/12. You cannot close that case till you go get a death certificate or some verifiable fact that he's dead, okay? So you keep that case open until you get all of that, and then you list it subject discharge due to death. That's how you list that out there. You don't change the discharge date. You go in there and put that.
Well, one thing that you're missing here on that gentleman, he was not in for a violent crime.
No.
How did he end up at OSP?
They're saying because he spit on the officer, and that's what
going to put you, a non-violent person, that's going to put you at OSP into a cell of a known killer.
And here's the other part, Bob. You got two. I can tell you 2 cases at OSP this week, 2 to 3. I think I got 3 of them, throwing urine, throwing feces and stuff on officers, and they're not doing anything. That's why it keeps happening. And again, there should be, if they had any sense at all, you have ways to discipline those people. You have ways to stop that kind of stuff. And these officers are just being, hey, go home, change clothes, and come back. Hey, go home, take a shower, come back. And so again, that's all that's happening. So why are you going to take this guy and him particularly, and take him and again, Bob, the other question.
How big was this guy?
He's 5'4", 134 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a threat. But here's the other thing, Bob. Did he receive any kind of due process? Did they just jump up and say, you know what, you're not getting due process, we're just taking you straight to OSP? It looks like that. That's what it truly looks like.
Wasn't that in the middle of the night when they did that? Or
somebody else? When he died, it was during the day. That's kind of funny, Bob. How do you have a guy die at 2 o'clock? They go in and say he's stiff and cold to the touch. Now, I've been around quite a few dead bodies. You don't get cold and stiff for a couple of hours, several hours. Okay, so how in the world could you feed him lunch and nobody pick up that, dude's dead? It's a little bitty cell, okay? You fed him breakfast. He's dead. You had how many counts? Dude's dead. How long did it take? And how did you find out? You know why you found out? Because the other inmate in the cell go, hey, dude's dead.
Well, JJ, that brings up in a couple another point. There's been officers who were terminated because they didn't do the count when they wanted them to. They have a responsibility, maybe 3 or 4 different things they're supposed to be doing. So which issue do you take? You take this issue, you take that issue, anything you do is wrong. So you're getting your count, but you're not getting it at that time because you're trying to do your count and do your other things that you're required to do. Because of what reason, JJ? Why would they be doing that?
Well, here's the deal, because you got to have the officers doing it. It ain't hard to. You don't have to be. See, okay. Listen, this is common sense, Bob. Common sense. Common sense will tell you when you had 2,200 officers doing the same job, roughly the same amount of inmates, and now you have 1,200 doing the job. Now, Bob, and what nobody ever puts into these, and I know you know this, but I just want to say it. How many of those officers are going to be transported? How many are working at headquarters? Are they including OIG into those officers?
Caseworkers?
Yeah, I mean, hey, here's the deal. They ain't going to be 1,200. We know there ain't going to be 1,200. They're lying about that, so it'd probably be actually, you know, and then even if they have that number, they padded it. So, Bob, what I'm trying to tell you is they're working that guy 3 jobs, 3 to 4 jobs, that person, it may not be a guy, they're working that officer 3 to 4 jobs, and then they got 4 jobs that used to be spread out between 4 people. And now any one of those 4, if you don't do it, it's your fault. And how stupid is that? And then don't even write progressive discipline. You know why they don't write progressive discipline or do any of that?
Why?
Because it would come back on them, Bob. It comes back on their failure. They know. So, Bob, here's what's funny. They go in and change post-ops. They go in and change all the rules to say, oh, no, this thing that we used to have required 2 officers. We're just going to say it requires 1 officer. Oh, it used to require 1 officer to run the all the control, and 2 out here. Now it just requires 1 officer to do all of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, and when it turns out that they're not super people and can't do all the work, and when something happens, it's not a question if, it's when something happens. Then guess what? Does Harpe take responsibility? No. But guess what? They're going to hang it on the person down there that's trying to do the job.
Speaking of responsibility, here we got a guy who's director of our prisons, but he's not here. He's going around one place and then another when our prisons is in dire need of help.
Yeah. Well,
it's a
in all honesty, you make a good point. You know, he's flying all over, jet setting, big wigging, acting like he knows something. Or look what I know about corrections, and he knows absolutely nothing. He's worse than nothing. He is worse than nothing. But I would say the state's no worse off. What's he going to do if he's here? He knows absolutely nothing. So I don't know that it helps whether he's here. He just costs us money. Comes up with really cool koozers. I love it. I love koozers. Bob, I managed to get me one. I got a maroon truck, so I got one for maroon. I got a work truck that's blue, so I got me one for my truck, my work truck, and then I just thought the orange was cool. I just thought.
Well, did the director send those to you personally?
You know what, Director? I want to personally thank you for the cool koozers. No, I don't think he sent them. My reason I got those, Bob, was because, Director, you kind of come out, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to be mistaken because I hear everything hearsay because we don't have a relationship where we can talk. So I hear the hearsay that you came out a little while ago and said that we were going to get these stimulus raises, Bob. You remember when they did the stimulus raises?
Yeah.
He said he was going to give more of them. I hope you don't use the same assessment. You know, the old, if you're in the Harpe Club, you get the raise. If you're not, you don't get the raise assessment. I hope you don't use that assessment again. But here's the deal. He said he's going to give the bonuses in June or July. Well, Bob, I'm just, you use a little common sense. June is gone, and July is about half gone, and I ain't heard not a word on the stimulus raises. So it looks like, the promises appear to be a little hollow at this point.
Well, I don't think they have the money, apparently, because they're not doing uniforms. They cut back on the food. There's so many things they've done to.
That's my point, Bob.
Yeah.
I've made fun of this all day, Bob. And here's the deal. I don't care whether you have, this is a little bitty trivial thing. I don't care if you do these. Your statement is ridiculous. And how can you
JJ, let's take one prison out of Oklahoma. One prison that's had at least 30 to 35 deaths.
Yep.
I think that's Allen Gamble.
Yep.
Unheard of. Why do they have so many suicides? You look at that list and they got suicide. And there's a bunch of them that's overdosed, but they don't put that in there. And then you have beaten up.
I think they list that overdose as accidental, probably. You got to.
Well, that's phony too.
That is.
So, but the inmates that are in that prison, you take the Oklahoma County Jail, okay? I think they've got around 1,800 people there in the Oklahoma County Jail.
1,500.
Okay, 1,500. Well, they probably had 5 deaths, 7 deaths.
No,
they have some. I'm sorry.
They're almost as bad as us. But
if they're in the paper, well, like it's a big deal.
Oh, it is.
Our guys, they can cut the head off of a guy, cut his head off, and stick him in the trash can. Cut his head off, put it underneath the bed. Never hear anything about it.
Bob, how many times have they changed the people on the board of Oklahoma City? Have they changed the director of the jail because of what you're talking about? Because they cannot get a handle. They can't get anybody to get this straightened out. They are aware, and the news covers that, and they're aware of the problem. But guess what? Like you said, you have a guy get his head cut off, put in a bag, throw it up under the bed. Can't even get anybody to report on it. But Bob, I do have a little. I will tell you, I've recently got called by about 3 media groups, and here's what's funny. You know what the big deal on the media groups are? They're calling back, and they're like, well, here's what's funny. We showed them guys getting beat, okay, and that apparently sparked a little interest. And now we got several media companies coming to us. But here's what's funny. They're calling me back and going, you know what? The Department of Corrections won't let us have this.
Oh, yeah. They'll give them records just like they do for us.
Yeah.
They redact it so it's not even any good.
Yeah, you can't get a report from them. And then if they, so I call them, and I'm not a reporter. I am in their chain of command. I call and say, I want an OIG report. I don't get an OIG report. I get an incident report so redacted that you can't get one thing out of it. Who do you think y'all are, CIA? I just laugh. And it's against the law, by the way, Bob. We were talking about how Harpe gets away with embezzlement, how Harpe gets away with violating the law, working these people over hours.
The state constitution violates that.
You passed a law, Fair Labor Standards Act, all of these violates all that. And guess what? Nothing. I put in there today, I know a person, and here's the deal, not one, I know several people that work in maintenance. One is now deceased, and me and him had several conversations. They had him sign every work order. He wasn't there. He was getting cancer treatment. And he would come in and sign off. You remember when the food supervisor quit, and she told us they were trying to get her to sign 6 months worth in forward. This is their top staff is trying to tell her to fraudulently sign paperwork. Okay, we got her saying it. We got employees saying they come in and tell us to sign fraudulent paperwork. And then if you don't do it, guess what? They'll fire you. And again, it's fraud. It is a fraud.
Well, I think maybe what you're talking about here too is that the reporters have kind of heard about all these killings that's going on and want to take a look at it after what we've had. But Allen Gamble, theirs is much higher than any other prison. Even OSP was always our worst prison. They're higher than them on death.
Yeah, I would say Allen Gamble right now. One time, Dick Connor, Great Plains, Allen Gamble, and Lawton were pretty Red Rock were pretty close race. Right now, I'd say Allen Gamble's got them all. They got a lead on all of them. Lawton would probably be at a pretty even with Dick Connors. Dick Connors here lately has had some problems. You know, I'll tell you another thing, Bob. At OSR, I was told they wasn't giving them their drugs, that they'd run out of drugs to give them. And so here's these medical issues that they're supposed to take medicine on. They run out of drugs, I guess, broke or whatever. And again, you know, here we are putting people's lives in danger. I was told one guy died over insulin, not there at OSR, another place that he begged for his insulin and they end up not giving it. He died. Again, just ruled an accidental death. Yeah, it's accidental. You accidentally didn't give him his insulin and he died. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So those are the things that we're seeing. And people are now trying to make calls on those because we're giving them, we've been putting this out there for a while. And now people are starting again, once again, to go, hey, maybe it's true. But what is interesting, they are now trying to find out public information and are being told, no, that's confidential. And it's hilarious because open records is a law violation and the Department of Corrections is the biggest violator. That's why I sued them, Bob. That's why I filed a lawsuit on them. They are the biggest liars, biggest open records violators. And again, we go on all day, Bob. When I say filing fraudulent, Bob, that is false declaration. It's a law they're violating. It is a felony they are committing. And they act like no big deal. It is a law violation for them to withhold public records. No big deal. You know, we don't want that getting out there because it'd make us look bad. It would make you look bad. And if it got out there, guess what? We'd find out that you are covering up murder, that you are lying, and that you...
Do you think maybe the reason they wouldn't let that mother go in to see her son, who was my understanding wasn't expected to live, that he got beat up, that they didn't want her to see him, that how bad it was? I know that one guy that got beat up, I think they said that he had every bone in his face broken.
Yeah, this one's supposed to be equally as bad. Bob, I would say one, that they do not want more pictures. Those two, you know, we put out a pretty powerful deal. I've gotten a lot of comments on that, and I know the mother was upset about that, and I get that. I totally understand that. All the respect for the family there, but they don't understand what putting that out there did. I have gotten more comments, and I have gotten more interest in what's going on at prison over us doing that. You know, we did it on Elephant in the Room. And I'm going to tell you something, man, we got a lot of interest in that. And I think we sparked. And so I think that's why these media are like, okay, we want to check it out. And now when they start checking it out, guess what? And then here's what's funny, Harpe, when you won't give us the information, there's all kinds of ways to get that. So what I do, hey, y'all call the medical examiner. Why are you asking that medical examiner? Just ask them how many you've had die from that one facility. How many have you gotten from right there? Yeah. And then off it goes. Wow. And then here's what's funny. When I send the facility, when I send the medical examiner a list, here's 29 or 30 people that ought to be dead. And they're sending me back, these 7 are unaccounted for. That even opens up, because you can't get a straight answer from me.
You're telling me they had 7 people they couldn't account for?
Here's the deal. They come back and told me, hey, these 7 people or so, we don't even, they must have just got stabbed or something and still living. I'm like, I don't think
I
so.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think so. I don't know. You know, but again, Bob, I'm running for stuff. I'm doing stuff. I got DHS stuff. I got COVID stuff. I've got people calling me all the time. There's just so much. Now, if I could slide off down there to what county is that? Hughes County. Harpe, it ain't hard to do. Even a moron like me could go down there and pull up, go into. All you got to do is go in the courthouse there at Hughes County, go pull all their murder cases for a 2-year period, look for the victims in that, find the victims. 10 to 1, they're not there because y'all didn't put them there. But it's easy to prove. Guess what? Easy to prove. We can find it, and I will find it. And when I'm out of office, people think, well, JJ, if you're out of office, no. If I'm out of office, I got more time. If I was out of office, I'd be up there at Hughes County digging this up.
Hey,
right
JJ,
now.
let me ask you a question. If someone is dead in the cell, do they have to keep that person there until the medical examiner views it and says he's dead?
Bob, anybody that's watched a few series of NCIS or CIS or watched a little Perry Mason, whoever, knows you don't move the body. When you find a dead body, and here's what's funny. First of all, they said they found him at 2:00. Well, then how did all this stuff? How'd you feed him? How'd you count? How'd you not pick up on that? Because the body is stiff and cold. Then they said that they handcuffed him. Well, he's in the top bunk. Hard to, if you ever go get somebody to lay in the top bunk and not move and try to get them handcuffed. Pretty difficult. Question, why are you handcuffing dead people? Okay, I wouldn't handcuff a dead guy. So, all right, we're going to pull him off. Then we're going to call the medical person and say they come and gave life-saving technique, life-saving. They tried to save his life. Well, you're in OSP. You know how long it takes somebody to come through there. Even if they opened every gate and let them walk right through, still going to take. So why would you offer life-saving, if he's already dead and cold and stiff? Second, can you do CPR, which is life-saving? Can you do that with him handcuffed? Probably not. I could just go on every statement they say in there. I can go, he's in a pool of blood. Go look at his injuries. They're not the kind of injuries that cause puddling. And puddling normally doesn't happen if you're laying on a blanket and sheets, because then it soaks it up. And if you get head injuries, it bleeds down you onto your clothes and stuff. It would bleed onto. You don't get puddling most of the time. So they say he's sitting in a puddle of blood. Possible, but what I know of injuries, I'm going, that don't seem probable. Everything they say.
Is it the law that if someone does die, someone is dead, that they have to call the medical examiner to pick the body up and
that happened.
Say he's dead?
That happened. They come in. But here's the deal. Why I'm saying all this about the puddling and all this, you don't want to, if you know he's dead and he's cold and stiff, why are you doing life? Leave him alone. Step back and let them come in, photograph, take scene. You know what I'm saying? How long's this guy? Because here's the deal. I can tell you this, Bob. Do you think, because when you investigate yourself, you always get off, okay, Bob? When JJ investigates JJ gets clean every time. So here's the question. They never looked at, what do you want to bet? They never looked at, did somebody put him in that cell on purpose to be beaten, to be abused? I don't think they put him in there to be killed, but did they put him in there on purpose to teach him a lesson? That's highly possible, okay? Now, do you think they investigated that? Do you think they went back and said, who put him in this cell? Who authorized the cell move? All of that. Do you think they went and investigate? Hey, there was a rumor going on that whoever walked by this cell was told that guy's dead. but kept on walking and made that and went back down there. So what y'all got wrote here, there's a rumor going on that says that's a total lie. And a lot of people were telling it, and they were telling it way before this got out. And
Right.
if we went back and looked at one of our podcasts, I think we've got that on that podcast talking about that. So do you think those OIG investigators investigate all that? Nah, they didn't investigate. That's why you leave the body right where it's at. They didn't. They moved him in 15 minutes. 15 minutes before the investigator got there. That looks, Bob, in the criminal justice business, we file that under the filing cabinet called sketchy. And since we're G-rated on the program, I'm going to say sketchy stuff. Sketchy stuff. But y'all go figure out what the stuff is. You know what I mean?
Well, do you have any opinions on the Allen Gamble? Why there's so many suicides?
Absolutely. I can tell you why all that's going on. But as we said, we don't have enough officers. Go over and look. They don't have enough officers. They don't have enough staff. That is why they have what I understand, they have two gangs. UBs running the place. They got open. They got the open run of the place, and the Bloods has got the open run of the place. So you got gangs, you know. So if you're getting raped every day, if you're being extorted, guess what? Suicide, or it's somebody's putting dope in your food, whatever's going on. Again, and that's what I'm saying. They're not working the drug related cases. Bob, how many people OD that they're just going, okay, he OD'd. No, somebody may have put something in their food. They may have killed him. He possibly OD'd. It possibly was murdered. Are you looking at that? And I can tell you, they're too short-handed. They can't work all the murder cases rightly like they need to because they got, just at that one prison. They can send their whole IG down just to work at one prison. But they had a murder in Lexington, or at least a death in Lexington. I know of. They had that guy stabbed at OSP. They had two officers assaulted at OSP. I know they had assault on the officer and nurse at Allen Gamble. And like I say, Hamilton, they had the inmate beaten to death. So lots to work, Bob. It's out of control. But you can, hey, Harpe is in Washington, D.C., taking care of the AI. Him and Elon Musk are probably up there having a great way of how we're going to take control of these prisons, and they're going to use all the vast wisdom of Harpe and his correctional knowledge. He's probably got Miss Correctional Knowledge, Kay Thompson, with him, and between them two, they have vast mountains of knowledge that they'll share, and it'll all be okay, Bob.
Well, it's amazing how every week we got so many different deaths, terminations, Harpe tooling around the countryside, not there at the prison. It's just every week. Nothing gets better. They don't. We didn't have anything happen this week. We didn't have anything happen this week. That's not true. It's every week. And I don't understand what the governor is doing when we have this many deaths in our prison. Now, inmates, just because they're an inmate, they don't deserve to be treated like a dog and be killed.
No, our job is to be professional and provide a place. And again, Bob, most of these people will get out if they don't get killed. Will get out, and we need to be able to start. Number one thing, change criminal behavior is employment, and we should be offering training, both technology training, other training, educational, all of that. We should actually, Bob, what we ought to be doing is what they're actually saying. This is a load of hooey.
But we don't have the money to do that.
Well, they got the money. They're just spending the money. It's called mismanagement, Bob. It's called mismanagement. How could we pay for 2,200 correctional officers with $400 million?
1 minute.
But we can't pay. Bob, you're shorting me. I've been short all my life, Bob. But here's the deal. Here's the deal, Bob. That's the problem. And if you look back at these things that we had, facts at a glance, it tells the whole. Bob, we don't have to. It tells the problem right there. We had roughly same inmates, twice as many employees, $200 million less budget. That's the problem.
Yep. Well, JJ, I appreciate you coming on with us.
Appreciate you, brother.
And I guess the elephant in the room will be up on us quicker than we know.
Bob, we're going to, this week on Elephant Room, we're going to have a guy in to talk about how the agencies have their own judges, their own, they pay the judges. So when you go to court, it's like, we're going to have a fair and impartial court, and then we're going to hang your honey, you know. So ethics has that, OCC has that, the ag department has it. So we're going to talk about his case and what happened in his case. Should be interesting.
We appreciate you, and I'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.